All right. So going into game 5, RNG is now on blue side again, and G2 is on red side. So what I want to see from both of these teams is what RNG can do to give Uzi the greatest chance to carry a game, regardless of what stages it is, which stage it is at. Which would mean that I think they need to take him off of the Lucian. It just doesn't seem to be a pick that is as effective as it could be, and it's just not able to compete with a lot of what G2 and Yarnan specifically are picking for. Not so much the laning experience, but the out of lane experience for team fighting. So I want to see Uzi on a different champion than Lucian this game. I want to see some more aggressiveness from RNG. I think that they kind of have been ignoring their top and mid pressure a lot because they've been so focused and tunneling on getting Uzi ahead and getting Uzi super far ahead that in the games they've lost, a lot of the pressure that they're losing is not worth the pressure they're able to gain on bot side. So I want to see MLXG this game has been subbed in specifically. So I want to see MLXG and his more aggressive and like kind of unpredictable style. I want to see him getting RNG's side laners also ahead, not just Uzi as well, because I think that if you leave Perks and Wonder to just accrue their own CS lead and their own pressure lead, that's how G2 has won both of their games. They've had strong solo lanes in both of these cases, and that they have transitioned that pressure into the side lanes to chip tower damage the whole time. And then as soon as they try to collapse on G2, they either had the Tom Kench pick to bring people in, or they've had Rise, or they've had a bunch of different ways to get into the fight to neutralize the numbers advantage that RNG is trying to get. So for G2, I want to see them try to create a similar split push 1-3-1 style composition without the Kench and without the Akali. So that means that they should be looking towards Aurelia, because Aurelia has gone through pick ban without being banned or any attention on her, except the second game that G2 picked her right away. And I want to see Yarnan trying to get... I liked the Sivir from Yarnan. I thought it was much easier for him to play against Uzi. Just the ability to keep the lane pushed out and have less pressure applied to you directly. I think that worked really well. I also think it was partly the Tom Kench pick as well. So I want to see what kind of bot lane they can get. They could go for the Varus again. They could maybe go for Jhin, depending on what the bans are for here. So going through, Royal Never Give Up should be banning the Heimerdinger, the Akali, and the Tom Kench as their 3 bans on blue side. And I think that G2 is going to keep going with the Xayah ban. They should keep going with the Urgot ban. They might go Alistar. They might go Talia. They might go Lissandra again. It depends on what they think is more important. So as we go through the pick ban here, the Heimerdinger and the Xayah are both the first bans for each team, respectively. And realistically, I don't see RNG changing their bans on blue side at all. So the Alistar is the second ban for G2. So that means that Talia, Urgot, or Lissandra are all going to be left up. One of those 3 will probably be banned out, realistically, in this stage. And the Urgot is the likely suspect. So again, daring let me to actually play the Aatrox, and realistically, I don't think he actually will, because Wonder could just play the Poppy into it to counterpick. So it's really interesting to see what RNG is actually going to have to draft for their top and their mid. They could definitely take the Lissandra again, I think, not first pick, but they should probably get MLXG some kind of jungle advantage. And there's the Nocturne first pick. It was used really effectively by G2 in their last game, so RNG should be able to use that same kind of pressure. And immediately again, the Aatrox pick for Wonder in top lane, or for Perks in mid lane. And then the Olaf pick for Jankos, so going away from the Gragas and taking another early aggressive jungler that can match the Nocturne early on and match his farming. And so now Xiaohu is probably going to pick up this Rise since he's really proficient on Rise, and they want to get a good matchup in mid lane. And then realistically, they could be picking a support here. They could be picking a top laner here to try to counter the Aatrox. Because if they don't pick a top laner here, they'll realistically either flex the Rise to top lane for Let Me, which I don't think will happen, or they'll just ban some more top laners out. So they picked the Thresh, which was banned in game 1 for Ming, as a way to try to create some more pressure in bot lane. And Perks picks LeBlanc, which is actually a pick that I thought would maybe be more popular for this series, considering that Xiaohu and Perks are both really good mechanical players, and I figured LeBlanc is definitely good in one of their hands. So G2 is able to ban out the Poppy, which means the counter pick for top lane is gone from RNG, so that means the Aatrox should thrive in top lane. And the Kai'Sa ban is also really important to keep Uzi off of Kai'Sa. It keeps the Thresh Kai'Sa lane from being a thing. Rakan and Varus are both banned by RNG, so that's trying to get rid of some of the hard engage from Rakan and the safety plus utility of Varus, which I think was the most effective utility AD that Hjarnan has played. So they're going to leave their AD for counter pick for G2, which I think is smart. It lets you see what Uzi is willing to play, which is the Sivir. So RNG finally draft a late game insurance policy of scaling with the Sivir pick against the Braum for Wadid. So that's another okay matchup into Thresh. Those two can go blow for blow pretty easily. So now it comes down to what they're going to pick for top lane. It's probably going to be a Scion pick because that's one of the safest tanks into Aatrox. That or Orin would be really good for just the team fighting. But it looks like they prioritize the Scion more. And so what it's going to look like is another Jhin pick. So this time, RNG don't actually have the winning lane, theoretically. With the Sivir getting outranged by Jhin, Hjarnan could bully Uzi out with just the huge range advantage, but Uzi is realistically going to just constantly shove the wave. This is another really good champion other than the Lucian to be able to push in hard, take their first tower, get the first tower gold in bot lane to Uzi, and then move him to topside again, take the tower topside, pressure for Rift Herald, move the Rift Herald to mid lane, and then take the 3 outer towers in a short amount of time. And Sivir, when she gets that much gold, sure, she doesn't have as strong of like an early game spike with only Stormrazor, but having that much gold to start out with and getting that much pressure for the Sivir will allow her to actually scale a lot faster. And the 500 CS Sivir win condition that we hear a lot about from the casters is very true, that once she gets her full build, it's really difficult to deal with her team fighting as the game goes on, because once she gets her full build, she can just ricochet through this team that G2 has right now and probably do a ton of damage, since there's no true frontline other than Olaf and the Braum. So this is going to be a very interesting comp. I think G2 have a better early game comp only based on the Jhin and the LeBlanc and the Aatrox, but if RNG is able to make it to 40-ish minutes or so, 35, 40 minutes, depending on how the game goes, I believe that RNG's comp will just outscale and be able to out-team fight G2 at that point. So we'll see how it goes. So it looks like they're going to try to get a slight advantage in terms of health on this bot lane. They go for a little cheese in that front bush of the river to try to get Ming down to about half-ish health and burn his pots right away, which is pretty good because if the Thresh is too afraid to actually walk up in your lane, it's a lot harder for him to actually get lane pressure. However, they do actually take a lot of damage back from just the Thresh autos and the Sivir ricochets. So overall, it's actually not bad. They're just kind of getting them low enough. It looks like Jankos is actually going to pressure for this. So Wadid flashes forward, gets the stun, And this is really smart. This play right here, we'll see it a lot in this game specifically against the Thresh, is that they constantly ward out the Lantern, which is like a base. It's a basic technique you can do to counter a Thresh as long as you have wards in your inventory. But it's not. I don't see it always used as efficiently as you'll see in this game. But that's a huge first blood to Hjarnan now over Uzi, and that gives Hjarnan a really big advantage, able to push in the wave against Uzi here and actually get a CS lead and just a pressure lead. Now he gets to go back and get boots and a longsword to try to keep dominating this lane. And Uzi's heal is down. He obviously didn't flash there because he thought he was going to be able to take the Lantern. So now we'll see across the map that there are going to be 3 pushing lanes for G2. The Aatrox will always be able to push in the Scion. The LeBlanc will be able to push in the Ryze. And I think Sivir can actually push back now that she's back in lane, but Hjarnan and Wadid should have good lane pressure and lane priority in bot lane, simply because they already got the first blood and forced him off. The one thing I do like about the team comp that G2 has drafted, even though LeBlanc is not a traditional split push threat like a Ryze or an Aurelia could be considered in mid lane, I like that the agency of mid lane is now put into Perks' hands in terms of how hard he is able to carry against this team. Because LeBlanc is just a really, really strong early game champion, and if he's able to get lane priority and roam against this Ryze into bot lane, there's not a lot that Sivir can actually do against a LeBlanc in the early game, especially if the spell shield is blown through some kind of lane trading that goes on beforehand. So a lot of this game is on how well Perks can play LeBlanc into this team comp and how he is able to roam and get pressure off onto the side lanes of RNG. So now because Perks has the priority in mid lane, it allows Jankos to try to invade, even though our MLXG actually smites it away. They're constantly able to pressure Xiaohu and MLXG with this Olaf and this LeBlanc pick, because 2v2, the Olaf and the LeBlanc should just straight up win against the Ryze Nocturne. So that's a good 2v2 matchup that they have. They're going to keep pushing in through bot lane. Uzi still actually has a CS lead, even though he got first blooded. And he got the wave shoved in, so he's been doing a good job of keeping even. The Aatrox is starting to get a slight gold lead from the CS in the top lane, just because of him naturally being a tank bully. So I'm really interested to see how strong this Aatrox is going to be as well. And I think right now, the biggest thing that RNG needs to do is just to be able to get Uzi his first blood tower gold. I think that that's the best way for them to be able to try to initiate some kind of play and to be able to get him out of this losing lane and to be able to move him around the map to try to break open and get some more gold for RNG at this point. So now looking at the game state, MLXG is level 6, so RNG should be looking to try to make some kind of a play with this Nocturne ult, and being able to do that would be super helpful in terms of relieving pressure in bot lane for Uzi. They could realistically make some kind of a 4-man play with the Ryze ultimate as well to try to dive this bot lane. I think that would be the best usage of the ultimate, because trying to kill the Aatrox would just be a long waste of your time, plus it would result in maybe Olaf coming back down bot lane to do the Infernal Dragon, which you don't want to give up right away if you don't have to. Looks like he's looking for something on Perks. Maybe if they're able to EW him, he would be able to do enough damage to kill, but Perks does have his flash up, plus his distortion, so it probably would be a lower success chance of getting a kill on that. So realistically, the best place MLXG can look right now to get a kill is through bot lane and through trying to get a hook or a setup engage from Ming as well. Looks like Perks is going to jump in. Jankos is starting as Predator, and they get the double chain down, onto Xiaohu, and they actually get a kill. That's pretty big for just in terms of like the mid lane pressure swing now. Now that LeBlanc has a kill, she's able to accelerate her gold, get even more pressure down on this mid lane. And again, if she's able to roam down to bot lane to influence what's going on down here, that could spell big trouble for Uzi, even if he is this far ahead. And so now that MLXG is down here, they should be looking to make a play with the ultimate right now. It looks like they are. Ming's able to get a double flay down, and they're just going to focus the Braum, and he should be dead, giving a kill over to Uzi. That's basically the best usage of the MLXG ultimate that they can have at this point. This puts pressure now onto the first tower. Xiaohu's going to ult in behind Yarnan to keep him from curtain calling to clear the wave. And so now they should pressure this tower with 4 people. Perks cannot respond and do anything because Wadid is already in base. Yarnan is low on mana. There's nothing they can really do here. Give the solo gold to Uzi, and now they're going to probably throw him in top lane to try to open up this map even more. So the plan for RNG is working out well so far, other than the oopsie in mid lane and the early gank in bot lane. They are going to try to snowball this advantage with the Sivir that they have. He is still like 15 minions up on Yarnan at this point. Jankos is going to be able to take the Infernal Dragon, though, so that's really good for late-game insurance on G2's side with the scaling for Jhin, for Aatrox, and for LeBlanc. So now they're going to be sending their bot lane, top lane, and they're going to be trying to knock down that outer turret, or they could just be going straight for Rift Herald, one of the two, if they feel like the Rift Herald is more higher priority, which I guess it is for them. So they're going to be looking to do that as a 2-man and then let Uzi push in the wave in top lane to try to get pressure on that tower. So MLXG's ultimate is almost back up on Nocturne, so we're going to be looking for the second usage of the Nocturne ult to see if it's as effective as the first. I think they could keep targeting the Jhin with the Nocturne ultimate to try to keep putting him behind and give Uzi some more pressure. Like even just one rotation of Uzi's abilities takes Yarnan down to like half health. So it's very clear that Uzi does a lot of damage with the Stormrazor completion, where Jhin does not even have the Stormrazor built yet. And so we're going to see where MLXG wants to ultimate and what Jankos can do to prevent some kind of pressure play from that. So now Jankos is looking to come up top lane after clearing his camps. He's channeling the Predator. And so this is a really good play. Again, they overward the Lantern so that Uzi can't grab it. And Uzi has been using his spell shield really freely, I would say, which has actually gotten him killed in this certain scenario because he used his spell shield on Jhin W. This prompts Wadid to want to walk forward and ultimate and use his ult on him right here. So he uses it under the tower. This prompts Wadid to ult, keeping him from being able to press the Lantern, gets the stun proc down. So as the Lantern goes down, they put wards on it so that Uzi can't actually click it. And that keeps him from getting out alive. So it's the second time G2 has taken advantage of the interaction of warding the Lantern to get a kill onto Uzi. And that's pretty big to give Yarnan 2 kills now. It lets him catch back up in CS. It lets him catch back up in pressure in top lane, keeping Uzi, again, from being able to push this tower and complete the plan that RNG wants to set forward. So it's really quite interesting how G2 is actually not only punishing RNG for making little mistakes like that, but just how greedy Uzi is with his spell shield at times. So it looks like they're going to try to use Nocturne ult up here, but Ming is probably going to die because he was overcommitted with the Braum passive. Braum is able to get out. Uzi's going to have to use his spell shield on the Braum passive, and they end up winning the fight there. And then Perks roams up. That's the big thing that wins them this fight, is that Perks gets the shove on mid lane and then immediately begins to walk up to top lane right here. So he gets the push on Ryze. The minions for Ryze will bounce off the wave and then push back into him. Perks doesn't even lose the next wave that comes in, and now he has 2 more kills under his belt, making the LeBlanc a very scary threat for Uzi right now. And even then, with all of this pressure, since the wave is there equally, Perks is able to just move in, ignite the Xiaohu, and kill him because he has so much more pressure in the lane with Luden's Echo than just the Roa and the Tyr. Perks is basically starting to take over this game just with how strong he is. Even on just the one item spike, you can see why LeBlanc is that much stronger than the Rise in the early game and how this early game comp is meant to try to snowball. So G2 is doing a really good job. They're about 2.5k gold up right now, and they're continuing to snowball their advantages. So here again, we'll see Perks is pushing in the wave in mid lane, and he starts immediately roaming up as soon as they start the fight, and Nocturne ult goes down. So as he's walking up the river, they already kill Ming, and they get the pressure onto Uzi with the spell shield pop plus the flash. So he has absolutely no escape. Perks is able to just jump in and kill both of them right away. No spell shields for either of them, and they're able to get the kill. And this is a really good heads-up play by Wunder, stopping the TP, or at least forcing Let Me to cancel the TP. And that allows no counterplay to be coming in from the Scion or any kind of help coming in from that as well. So that was overall a really good read of what MLXG was going to do, and it was a good read of when to actually gank by Jankos. So now the Nocturne ult is back up. They're going to be going in for this Aatrox. They're also going to be using the Rise ultimate to try to collapse on him and get a pick. However, it looks like Perks is actually just really strong right now. He's got Oblivion Orb, and they are unable to actually kill Wunder right here. They're actually going to win this 2v3 fight right now because of how far ahead Perks and Wunder both are. He's able to stay alive, and they're going to get this pick onto Let Me. So it was initially a good attempt by RNG to try to catch out Wunder in the sense that they've always been doing when he's been playing this Aatrox. Essentially go to the side lane, burn the ultimate, and then try to punish him after it goes down or as it's going down. They sent 3 people down there, and then they end up losing 2 for none on G2's side. So that was a really good collapse. Perks is just so strong right now with the full Ludens, the Oblivion Orb, and now even a needlessly large rod. He is just so much further ahead on this Rise. And the ability spike that it gives, you can see really clearly with how quickly he kills MLXG right here. He actually lands the chain through the Scion and the Rise, which is really... That's actually pretty hard to do, I think, with how easy it is for them to body block. So yeah, Wunder is basically able to escape right there. Xiaohu is unable to chase any further, and then Let Me is basically left to die because the rest of G2 is there to collapse on top of him. So now this is looking pretty dire for RNG. They've given up a lot of early kills and pressure to G2 and their early game comp. And while G2's comp is early game focused and definitely really important to get this big lead, it should be noted that they need to be able to close this out as quickly and cleanly as possible so that Uzi does not have a chance to become the 6-item Sivir that's so scary to play against. And so looks like they went in with Nocturne ult again, trying to kill Perks. They actually do almost get him. He's very close to dead. If they had a little bit more damage, I think they probably would have been able to kill him. That was a really good play to try to defend Vision by Ming. It unfortunately does use the Nocturne ult now, so that there's no more pressure from the Nocturne here. So now we're going to see that they want to continuously push in pressure. Perks actually goes off of the root of Hjarnan and ends up killing Uzi, which is absolutely huge, because killing him is basically killing the wave clear of RNG, which allows them to put pressure now onto the mid tower, onto the bot tower, and Let Me also dies for going in there. So now G2 is in. Now they're in the driver's seat. They're super far ahead. They have a really good chance to win this game as long as they continue with this style of constantly pressuring the side lanes while also looking for picks with Perks. Since Perks is like 7-0 right now and he has such a huge item lead over pretty much everyone else, Uzi has to play extremely far back to actually be able to survive. And even then, he's all the way back. Perks expends his flash forward, gets the chain with the Luden's proc bounce to kill him, and it looks like they're going to end up killing Ming right here as well. So there's just so many picks that Perks is able to create with this LeBlanc pick that all of the other champions that he's played so far have not really had the same amount of pressure and the same closing pressure that a LeBlanc does. So now, because of this lead, they're 12-1 in kills. They're like 7k gold up right now at 20 minutes. This is a huge lead that G2 has, and they need to continue to pressure. And they should be able to continue to pressure, because anytime they try to catch out Perks or anytime they go for a play on RNG's side, it's going to be so hard for them to actually get a kill when Perks is able to just almost one-shot half their team. So that pressure that Perks has now buys them a top inner tower, allowing them to get more gold and to keep opening up the map. This is really important. Plus all of the vision, just looking at it right now, all of the vision that RNG or that G2 has right here, this whole band of pink wards and more extra wards, like all through this bot side of the river and through G2 or through RNG's blue buff. This is huge. Like that amount of ward coverage is insane that they have, because now it's such a dark area for RNG to have to walk through when they're already so far behind. That allows Perks to be enabled to try to pick even more onto like the champions of RNG at this point. So the only thing they can realistically do is go together with Sion out front to try to tank the burst of LeBlanc and try to keep clearing out these wards that G2 has placed down. But a lot of the tempo and a lot of the vision pressure right now is in G2's favor. So they pretty much have a really easy time taking Baron, even though their team comp is not actually that great at taking Baron. The amount of pressure they have to do Baron does not necessarily reflect how easy it is G2 can do Baron, because they can't do Baron quickly with Jhin LeBlanc, even if they're this far ahead. So the best thing they can realistically do is look for picks that they can find with Perks' LeBlanc. So again, another big chunk onto Ming and Uzi. This allows them to put pressure onto this mid tower, which is what they should be doing at this point, because, again, they could do Baron, but they're not so strong that they can just clear Baron faster because of their champion picks. So now Wonder is pushing in this bot lane. They're putting pressure onto Let Me to try to get this tower. Xiaohu has to ult in to just help try to defend the tower, but at this point it's almost too late. It's down to three-quarters HP. And at this point, G2 just has to sit around, take this tower. It's probably going to be given over anyway because all of RNG is backing off. And now this is the point in which G2 should be looking for Baron, because they've taken every single tower except the inhib towers, and they have a ton of vision pressure inside the jungle of RNG. So they should take this Infernal Dragon that's coming up right now, and then they should start choking out the vision in the blue side of RNG. Once blue side is choked out for vision and they are forced to face check, you can either do two things. You can use LeBlanc to try to pick somebody, try to get a good flank off through the vision and pick off Uzi or Xiaohu. And if that does not work, then just keep trying to do Baron and just trying to start Baron and force them into the choke points of having no vision. Because RNG cannot walk into G2 right now. They are like 10k gold down. Uzi is only on 2 items plus a BF sword. Ryze is at the Seraph's point plus Roa, but he's still scaling. He's not gonna be able to straight up kill anybody yet. MLXG, he only has his jungle item. He doesn't really have any actual damage, so he's not a backline threat. Sion has Frozen Heart plus Warmog, so he's actually getting pretty beefy. He's still pretty far behind Wonder just in terms of the items that are being built. Wonder already has a Yomu's, a Black Cleaver, and a BF sword, presumably for the GA. Olaf has Black Cleaver and Cinderhulk plus a Warden's Mail, so he's going to be pretty tanky against this Sivir, plus do a fair amount of damage. LeBlanc is on 2 full items, plus a needlessly large rod, plus a fully stacked Dark Seal. And so here we see G2 starting to do Baron, but again, they're not super fast at doing it. They had about like 10 to 15 seconds free on it, and they barely got to half health, so now they're just going to be backing off and looking to try to pressure through Fog of War. Perks jumps in, double distortions, and he has to jump back. MLXG jumps in here, forces the stopwatch out of Perks. And right now, this is actually a fight that RNG looks like they're going to be losing, but I think, yeah, but Rise turns around this fight strictly because of the AoE and the funneled choke point that they have here. And so now it's actually not a lost fight for RNG in this case specifically, because there was no actual backline threat and because Perks got chunked out too early at this point. So that was actually really well played by RNG. To go even in a team fight where you're 10k gold down is really difficult, especially with the champions that they have right now and how strong they are. So Perks is looking to try to get another pick, but he has to use his flash defensively. That actually is unfortunate because now he loses kill pressure on Uzi that would normally be hard to just defend in general, but because he has no flash, he's going to be very telegraphed with how he's going to be playing LeBlanc for the next 5 minutes or so. So when you go back to the replay, that'll be coming up shortly on here. G2 starts the Baron, but again, like I said before, they're not a fast Baron taking team. They had about 15 seconds of total time where they're just hitting Baron with everybody, and they are forced to peel off. Jankos is already half health just from taking the Baron this long, and Perks gets chunked out super hard by Uzi right at the beginning. Like, he's below a quarter HP. So fighting here is not necessarily the best idea when there's no pressure on Uzi in the back side. So right here, they kill MLXG. Uzi is being funneled back, but right here is where they get choked by Rise's AoE damage, and that's the biggest reason that RNG is able to win that fight, is that Rise did an insane amount of AoE damage when they're all clustered in and get hit by multiple essence fluxes from Rise. Or not essence fluxes, but the regular fluxes. Spell flux. And so that allowed RNG to actually be able to win that team fight and stay alive in this game. Even realistically, they should not be. They should be getting pressured for Baron, and Perks should be able to kill them if they play their fights correctly. But right there, it was just a little bit too much over aggression. They lost a lot of their health from trying to tank Baron, so Olaf was not able to just be a true frontline the whole time. Perks lost a lot of his health early on, so he was pretty much out of the fight, and he was stalled by MLXG ulting in on him. So that just allowed Sivir to actually be able to make up the difference in her damage onto the Aatrox, because that was the only frontline that she actually had to hit. So right now, G2 is trying to set up another trap of vision, which is what they should be trying to do with Perks. They should always be looking to get picks with him in the jungle, get these lanes pushed up. I think that since Aatrox has his TP, he should probably be pressuring the bot lane just to make sure all the lanes are getting pressured in and actually try to 1-3-1. But if they're going to commit for trying to do Baron right now, they need to have everybody there. So again, they're trying to do Baron. They're not doing it very quickly because Jhin does not take Baron very fast. Ming is looking to fight here. They're looking to fight here. Perks gets flayed. That's the biggest thing in this fight, is that Perks gets flayed out of his damage combo, which allows RNG to actually move forward and take this fight. They're able to pick off Wadid, and they're able to get the GA out of Aatrox in a return for the MLXG GA. So a big thing that happened there was, like I said, the the Thresh was able to flay LeBlanc out of her second W combo there, negating all of the damage that it potentially could have done to Uzi. And that allowed Uzi to stay alive, which then meant that RNG could play front to back and basically just charge it down through that choke point and start fighting G2. Because with LeBlanc's damage down like that, it's not possible for her to really be as effective. So on the side right here where Perks jumps in, he's going to jump in right here and go forward again to right there. And Ming is ready for it as he flays. This flay right here keeps LeBlanc from actually going in on Xiaohu and Uzi right here. While also, the health bar for Wonder is super low. He's about to get his he's about to get his ultimate popped. Plus, in all of this time, the Nocturne ult is going on right now. So G2 cannot actually formulate a good fight front to back here because they're all being blinded. And Hjarnan isn't really able to hit anybody other than the Scion. And again, like game 1, Jhin does not have the best tank killing pressure. So trying to only hit the Scion in that fight doesn't really help out that much. Fortunately, they are able to get the GA popped on the backside, and they're able to pick up the Ocean Dragon now. But at this point, it's going to be scary for G2 because even with this huge gold lead, it's not nearly as important as it was 10-ish minutes ago, because Uzi now is on his IE, his Stormrazor, and his Rapid Fire Cannon. Plus, he went Last Whisper, which this is kind of questionable for me. It ends up working out for him later as the game goes along, but it's questionable to me when LeBlanc is the only damage threat to him as Sivir, and he doesn't go a Hex Drinker. I don't really like that as much as if he had just done a Hex Drinker here, because it's the same amount of gold. And I think it would have just been a lot safer of an option. They could have played a lot more aggressively with the picks that they have. But again, Jhin is falling off in his relevance in terms of killing right here. And they go for another fight here. And they're able to pick off Ming, which is really good for them. The Nocturne ult comes out now. And it's a really disorienting for G2 right here. Uzi is playing this fight really well and doing a lot of damage with these IE crits with the true damage. And even though they lose one member on RNG, they don't actually lose the fight because most of the members of G2 are either half health or below. So Uzi playing that team fight there really well, and LeBlanc being unable to actually get on him was one of the biggest reasons they were able to win that fight. Even though they were able to pick off Ming so early on in that fight, it's still another fight that keeps RNG in this game and keeps them having a hope of being able to actually win this game. So right now, G2 is really tunneling on trying to do Baron and clear out this vision, which it's becoming more and more apparent that they're losing pressure around this Baron simply because RNG feels like they can just constantly walk up together as a 5-man unit and just run through G2 and not actually lose too much off of it. So G2 needs to be able to find a pick with perks or find some kind of pressure in the top side of the jungle for RNG, or they just need to keep getting their side lanes manipulated well, because the LeBlanc is still stronger than most of the champions on RNG's side. So putting her in the 1v1 lane and getting it constantly pushed up and looking for pick opportunities wouldn't be a bad strategy either for G2. It feels like they're so tunneled on Baron being their win condition at this point that that's like the only thing they can really do. And again, they go here to try to start up the Baron. It's spotted out by RNG. It's only about half health again after 10 to 15 seconds of free hitting it. And RNG is going to start walking in here. It is a little bit late for RNG to actually engage since they do get the Baron right now, but they are able to get some picks on the backside. This is a really good play right here. I'm going to go back to it just really quickly because it's a it's an insanely smart and heads-up play by Jankos to actually save this, to be able to save Barons for their team. Right here, he pops his ultimate right here into the Scion ult that's coming in. It's going forward. It's going to hit all three of these champions if it does end up hitting everybody, and that's probably a team fight win and probably an inhib lost for G2 at this point. But because he's able to walk in front of the Olaf ult, only Jankos is the sacrificial lamb in this case, losing Baron, but saving the rest of his team from dying in this case. So even though G2 does get the Baron, they lose another 2 people to RNG. That keeps them from being able to just straight push out right now. But the important thing is that G2 has the Baron. And now that they have Baron on their 3 carry champions and their champions that are going to split push, this allows G2 to actually like take a little bit of control back into the game, because now they're not so focused on tunneling around this Baron, and they're able to like stretch the map again like they've been doing in games 2 and 4. So right here again, they pick off Wadid right away, and then the really, really good ultimate by Jankos to keep them from essentially winning the fight right there. And now RNG is going to be pushing in together in mid lane to get this outer tower, get a little bit more gold. And even though it's still a 12k gold lead, you still feel like RNG can like win a team fight now that Sivir is on almost 6 full items. He finally did get the Hex Drinker after finishing Lord Doms, so that's a good sign that he's finally getting some MR, because the LeBlanc is also almost at full build with a full death cap, a Ludens, a Morellos, and a Zhonya's. So you know that she's going to be able to one-shot the Sivir, probably even through the Hex Drinker, but that little extra layer of protection is enough for the self-peel on Uzi. And then plus all the other abilities like Thresh Flay, again, if he's able to get another good Flay off. But at this point, G2, now their 1-3-1 style can come back in, since they have the Baron and they finally secured it. They can look to pressure this top lane with LeBlanc, and they pressure the bot lane with the Aatrox, both of which have Baron, so it's very easy to push these lanes in. And then they just throw these 3 leftovers of Olaf, Jhin, and Braum into mid lane to just constantly siege and try to get pressure. And just have Perk sitting in the side lane, like in the side with the vision, looking for any kind of pick on the back line that he can. And so this is pretty well done for G2. Maybe just working on getting the waves to collapse at the same time, because Uzi can just run from one lane to the next and wave clear pretty quickly, even through Baron. But this is the big pressure. This is the big pressure point right here of, can Uzi actually defend against this team comp? So her ricochets are actually doing a lot of damage to this to the Jhin and to the Braum right now in mid lane. So there definitely is the damage potential in a good fight for Uzi to actually to be able to do well here. And I think really quickly before we get into the last portion of this, I guess they took off the scoreboard. Never mind. I was going to say that Hjarnan has a GA and Uzi does not. So even if they get a pick onto Hjarnan right here where they're looking, they initiate a play. Uzi is just so far up, and one big crit from Hjarnan essentially half healths him, and that allows G2 to be able to run through the rest of this team and win this last fight underneath the middle inhib tower and secure themselves a place in the semifinals. So overall, I would say that G2's style was probably one of the best matchups for RNG specifically, because they have such a strong mid and top they have such a strong mid and top pressure point in terms of the carry potential and in terms of just the mechanical players of Wonder and Perks, compared to Xiaohu and Let Me, who I think are definitely the weakest points on RNG. I know Xiaohu is a really good mid laner, but he's kind of been relegated, in my opinion, to like supporting Uzi duty, and I don't think that necessarily allows his biggest strength as a player to actually shine as much. I think he played pretty okay on the Rise this game. He just gave over the solo kill in the jungle that one time, But he played that first team fight that helped RNG turn around this game a little bit pretty well. He was able to get a lot of damage down. He played the second team fight after that pretty well, as being able to bring in the Scion into the front line and essentially separate the pressure between G2's front line and their front line. And then the stylistic difference, I thought the biggest point was whether or not Hjarnan and Wadid were able to absorb and suppress Uzi and Ming. And I think that overall they did a pretty good job. They only had one 2v2 death, which was the Kaisa Alistar game, which was game 3, where they got pretty much dominated across the board. And they did pretty successfully find picks that were still utility focused with the Jhin and the Varus in order to try to set up other players on their team to be successful. So the Jhin picks helped set up LeBlanc to be able to find a few picks onto Uzi. I liked the Braum pick a lot. I think that the Braum passive was utilized well for those 3v3 skirmishes that they tried to find, because it's just an extra stun in the kit that creates a lot of pressure. And if you don't spell shield that stun, you can be pretty much focused down instantly and killed. So I liked the Braum pick into the Thresh and the Alistar the other time that they played it, even though they didn't successfully execute it as well that time. But overall, I think that it was clear that the individual play of Perks and Wonder outshined the individual play of Uzi in this series specifically. I think that when G2 is able to draft a successful 1-3-1 composition where they have two kinds of carries in either of the side lanes, it doesn't even have to be a traditional 1-3-1. It could be something like LeBlanc, it could be something like Ryze, but any kind of hard pressure that they can bring to mid lane and to top lane, and getting those two lanes winning is the biggest and easiest way for them to be successful in unlocking their team's true potential, because I think Hjarnan and Wadid do a really good job of playing around the pressure that Perks and Wonder can create just from their champion picks and just from their strong laning. And I think Jankos is really good at reading the situation of where Karsa or MLXG are going to be in order to help Uzi gain pressure across the map. So yeah, that's my full analytical reasonings of why I felt that G2 had a good matchup against RNG. This was the conclusion of the 5th game for this series, and thank you very much for watching.